Hi, everybody. This is Megan Jones from ICEAA, welcoming you to another one of our machine learning group meetings. We're going to have Karen Marikas is going to start by talking a little bit about the meeting, the learning group, and go into some introductions, and then we're going to hand it over to Dan Harper from MITRE. We will be taking questions throughout the presentation. If you have a question, please send it to us in your chat box, and when we take a break for questions, we'll ask you if you still want to ask it. And at that point, we'll unmute you so you can ask your question. If you do put up a question, make sure you unmute yourself, because we can't unmute you if you're not unmuted. So with that, Karen Marikas, the chair of the steering committee, and yeah, all around great gal. Go ahead, Karen.
Okay, all right, thanks, Megan. All right, well, good morning and afternoon, everyone. It's still morning where I am, but I assume it could be afternoon where some of you are, maybe even evening. So I think this is our fourth or fifth meeting that we've had so far. I think maybe the fifth meeting. So again, so we'll just go through a little bit in the beginning about what this group is about, and then we'll go right into the topic for today, which happens to be the third bullet there, the data scraping challenge. And then Dan Harper will be explaining that. So why don't we go to the next slide? Okay, and I think this is a build, so you can hit enter at least one more time. How about one more time? So this is just a review of, when we set this working group up, what we wanted it to be. So just a reminder, it's an informal community. It does happen to be affiliated with ICEAA, but you do not have to be a member of ICEAA to be part of to join these meetings. And basically, we just want to help our community learn and grow from one another. And by our community, we mean cost analysts, cost modelers, estimators, trade study, affordability folks, and learning about machine learning and advanced analytics. And the last section there, format, we are tending towards having meetings about every 2 months. We're trying to get into a more regular schedule on that. So we're hoping that our next meeting will be in September. All right, next slide. A little bit about industry news. So I don't know if any of you happened to attend the Military Operations Research Society Symposium, which was in June. Originally, it was supposed to be at the Coast Guard Academy, but because of the coronavirus, it was held virtually. And I was able to attend a good portion of the topics. And first of all, there were a lot of subgroups. If you're not familiar with MORS, there are a lot of groups, working groups or subgroups that are related to cost analysis, affordability, even like machine learning. I think it's just called, it's called data science and AI. And there are other communities as well. But one of the things that I noticed were there were a lot of presentations on machine learning, and in particular with natural language processing. So there's a lot of people out there in the community who are looking into this. It seemed like a lot of the presentations on these topics were like their first attempt at doing something with machine learning or natural language processing. But if you had a chance to attend MORS, but you missed some of these topics, I know all of the presentations are available. I don't know if they recorded any of them, but we do have the we do have the opportunity to collaborate with some of these folks and invite them to this group. So if you know anyone who's been doing this type of activity and who may want to join or just learn more about what's going on, have them check out this ICEAA working group. All right, the next slide. And at this point, I am going to hand it over to Dan Harper, who is one of our other steering committee members. So Dan, take it away.
I will, and I have a quick question for you. So the conference, was there a machine learning track, or were there any presentations you got to attend? A couple of the presentations, or?
I do not believe there was a specific track for machine learning. because typically the tracks were by the working group. And so there were several working groups that did look at machine learning. They did have topics on machine learning. Not all of them were related to cost, because they look at a lot of all sorts of operations research type of topics.
Yeah, right. Because earlier this year I know they did have they actually had a sub conference devoted strictly to the more cost group. So yeah, curious. I'll have to definitely check out the site on that. So all right, well, on to the topic of today. We were discussing this during the week in our last internal meeting. We thought, well, what's one element of machine learning? What can we go into? And one of them was kind of the idea of going into web scraping, and even before that, well, how would we go about solving a given problem? And as we were discussing, chatting back and forth during the week after that meeting, we thought, you know what, we're a steering group, and not all of us, some of us are experts. I'm not an expert. I signed up for this because I want to learn how to do it, and we were chatting, and the idea of getting your hands dirty came up, and just getting in there and doing it, because it's overwhelming to think, man, I don't know code, I don't know how to do this, I don't know Python, I don't know R, and especially Adam, who really does know a lot of this, and he and I were going back and forth, and his whole emphasis and persuasion was to go ahead and get out there and get a GitHub account and a couple of things which I'll get into. But one idea is looking at a hackathon kind of approach to some problem sets. Instead of us doing a bunch of wizardy stuff and machine learning stuff and showing you guys how smart and great we are, we thought, let's just be the steering committee, like we said we are, and steer everyone and just come up with ideas and say, we can submit some problems and then apply maybe some skill sets to it and some of the things that some of us have learned, and also figure it out along the way, particularly me. Okay, so if you haven't heard the term hackathon, it's kind of like a sprint. Usually it's a bunch of programmers sitting in a room doing software development. Maybe they have the designers there. In the old days, we called this an integrated product team, right? But this is just sitting down and really hacking into a problem. And that idea, I think, works for what we're trying to do as well. Go to the next slide here. How do you go about solving a machine learning project? There's a couple of different ways, and the first part was just some general back and forth on, and again, I apologize for the noise here. I know everybody's dealing with that, working from home now, but I try to minimize that. But kind of general workflow here is you're going to be collecting your data. You got to prep your data. You've got to come up with a general model construct for your project, run the model, and evaluate the model. Graphically, and a slightly different take on that down below from, I believe it's the towardsdatasciencelearning.com website, which we have it here in the footnotes. You can't see it on the screen, but similar approach, a little bit more refined. You've got your data starting out on the left there. As you go right, you've got your testing data set, your training data set. You work and get your algorithms going, your evaluation, and have some iteration there in the gray box, and you come out with your model, which has hopefully some kind of prediction and some kind of production going into that box on the right. And there are other takes on this and other approaches, but generally, I think those are two kind of widely accepted views. More specifically, getting into web scraping. I like that graphic down below. You've got the ethereal websites on the left and the internet, and you kind of just suck it into these different formats. And I wish it was as easy as it looks in that little graphic. But defined web scraping is also referred to as web harvesting, data extraction. You're basically looking through HTTP or a browser at different websites. You think about if you've ever gone on Amazon.com or anywhere and just hit Control-C, Control-A, and paste that into Word or Excel, you're web scraping. But there are tools now that will automate that and hopefully can also update things like if you've ever worked with the Amazon Web Services cloud pricing calculator, prices change a lot. So, applying this to cost, how would we pull in the data automatically and not have to pull it in every time? Or if anybody's ever done a PDF document or a website, it's just a lot of it is working on reformatting the data, right? So how do we apply web machine learning, specifically web scraping, to this? The next slide is just another graphic of the same idea. Web pages, scraping applied, and then you get more structured data to pull in a machine learning term on the right. But there's some elements of fetching the data and then web crawling, just to kind of touch again on what we've already described. But I think I've pretty well described what we're trying to do here. I think you guys probably get it. Maybe the final bullet there, if you wanted to go get names and phone numbers and their websites and their URLs from a listing on a website, you know, that's web scraping. So onto our how do we do this? What's our learning problem? So we were trying to go through and think of some ways. How can we work on this as a group? How can we apply some of these skills? And you know, we came up with several sources that we are going to show you for cost, but more simply, Adam's idea was find a Wikipedia page for maybe a weapons system or an IT system, something you've worked on or are familiar with. Maybe if you've worked on an Abrams tank or a DDX destroyer program, look that up on Wikipedia, and your problem set would be, how do I pull this into Excel? It doesn't have to be Excel, but you know, maybe something like that. How would you clean and prep that data for analysis? And then how would you compare and collaborate with peers to improve that and to get their inputs? So this is probably the last screen where I'll just talk, and then we can start being, you know, more of a working group here and get some dialogue going. But the first step we need to do is or what you should do is go out and get a GitHub account. And that's one thing I did yesterday. So you see a couple of screenshots there. I'd been on GitHub before, but I decided to go ahead in there. What I haven't done yet is download, install R or Python. But go ahead and do that. You know, maybe just pick one. I get stuck in the analysis paralysis of going, well, which is better, which is easier, and all that. But pick one and go with it. Then you can team up, and on GitHub, just like with any other social network, you can add friends, you can add peer reviewers, you can look for people to figure out who might be able to give you input or team up on your project. If you hear something wrong in what I'm saying, that's because it may well be because I'm learning this process too, and this is based on what I've learned so far and speaking with Adam and the rest of the team. But the good part about that is you're seeing me muddle through it and kind of figure it out as we go. But you also can get SMEs that can help you even with your algorithms maybe, and if you've got something that's just not quite parsing your data right, somebody could possibly help you with that. And again, the last bullet there, I suggested, you know, getting something just on Wikipedia or something, maybe really simple, that even if it's only text or maybe has a couple of tables in there, seeing if you can pull that into your source, whether it's Excel or another project. On the right there is the GitHub screen when you start your project. On the left, they have a little guide, a hello world guide, you know, so I've just included a screen there of that. I'm going to pause for a second before I go into the cost sources and get some feedback and just get thoughts from people.
We do have a question that's come in from Richard Bierce. Richard, I am going to find you on the list, and then I'm going to unmute you as soon as that happens. So get ready.
Can you hear me?
You're on.
Awesome. Yeah, so my question, this goes way back to one of your earlier slides. You mentioned hackathons. I assume you probably meant something around with a machine learning flavor, but you also mentioned something along the lines of, being, some people new to the group who want to learn how to do this may be a little intimidated because they're not as familiar with some of the seasoned veterans with how to program or, general good practices. So my question is, do some of these machine learning challenges, do they have to be specifically machine learning, like prediction, data extraction, or can they just be like general programming problems? Because there are a few really good sources out there that are already established where people can go on their own time or even be like a general hackathon and do them just to get a better intuition with programming?
Oh, I'd love to hear even what those are. And I mean, part of this is you know, we're a steering committee, right? But you guys can steer us and the rest of the group as well with information like that. Because the first thing when I went to the ICEAA conference in Tampa a year and a half ago, you know, it was an epiphany for me to try to learn some of these things. And my first question was, where can I go to learn some of these tools as a guy who's good in Excel and can do a little bit of VBA, but it's not a programmer. So, you know, any suggestions you have would be more than welcome.
Cool. I guess my follow-up question is, like, if I want to submit like a suggestion, like how would I do that? Because I got a couple off the top of my head that I can think of.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say let's hear them right now, but then also we do have a network called CostFacts, and I can, if you send me your email after this, I can invite you to that. But the idea there is to kind of have dialogue and have that's a forum for sharing ideas like this, or even just emailing.
Dan,
Yeah, Karen,
Dan, this is Karen. If you back up a slide or two, it does have the information about CostFacts in there.
Gotcha.
Keep going. Yeah, in here. Well, yeah, it's like the second to last main bullet, and then we have some information on it, I think, on the last slide on actually how to connect to it. But yeah, the idea was that we were going to use CostFacts as a way to share information, and people can submit questions or, you know, links to different documents, or, you know, open up discussions.
One of the easiest ways to sign up for CostFacts is to go to the ICEAA website, and I believe it's on our front page. It may be towards the bottom, but we have a link where you can sign up there.
Yeah, and I can even pull that up. But
DuckDuckGo. It's awesome.
Yeah, and what are some of those? I mean, off the top of your head, you know, here we are talking about machine learning and new things, and we're still briefing everybody in a PowerPoint slides, right? So let's make this a dialogue a little bit. What were the suggestions?
So my favorite one personally is Project Euler. So that you create an account, make sure you write down somewhere your account name and password, because if you forget it, they won't be able to send you a copy. They don't save it, which is a bummer. But it's these general mathematical problems that are fun to do because they teach you, well, they're to help enhance your programming skills, and they can only be solved efficiently, you know, with some sort of programming language. But they also give you you also learn like new math concepts that maybe you had forgotten about or never even heard of. So it's really neat in that sense. But it's mainly just to, you know, help you develop your more basic and fundamental programming skills. And they're ranked from like easy, and you can see how many people like successfully completed this problem, and that can give you an idea of how difficult the problem is, and you can focus on the easy ones and gradually move to the intermediate, then to the difficult ones. And the second one, and this one, it's good, but I believe the what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say interface, that's probably not correct, but I guess the way you submit stuff is a little confusing at first, but once you get used to it, it's pretty standard. It's LeetCode. Code. So again, those are like general programming problems that actually some of them are used in typical programming
Hey,
tests, like when you're on the interview.
Richard?
Yeah.
Could you spell out, we had a question, can you spell out those resources for folks to jot them down, please?
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
so I'll just type it right here. So
Oh, cool, good eye.
Yeah, I guess that's LEET as in Tom code, right?
yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm not looking. I'm sorry. You probably just wrote that, but I'm not looking at that right now. Cool. Yeah, that's. I know another one. I mean, when I was asking around, I think, what is it, Code Camp? I mean, that was more for learning like Python, and I even had an app on my phone for a little while where I was trying to go through and do some problems. So that's fantastic.
And for folks, this is Karen again, and for folks who are who want to do machine learning but may not necessarily want to get into the coding of it, I believe it was our last meeting we heard from Tom Donnelly from Jump or SAS, and so there are software tools out there that have a lot of the machine learning algorithms already coded into it. So that you don't necessarily have to learn how to do the coding yourself. So there are other options for those of you who are coding, phobic, I guess I'll say.
Yeah. Cool. Any other questions or suggestions before we go any further?
Those are the only ones we've received. Richard, are you happy?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to turn you back off and give it back to Dan.
Thanks, Richard. I was going over to my browser for a little bit. I didn't know if you guys could see that or if it was only sharing PowerPoint.
We could see that.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Well, glad I didn't check my email then, but yeah, so there's code. And then on ICEAA, I did notice as it was pulled up there, there was an ask for, go ahead, sorry.
It's missing. It'll be up in a sec. I don't know what happened to it, but we'll put the cost backs thing back up.
I think if you scroll to the bottom of the screen, isn't there another set of little images? There it is.
Yeah, there it is. Okay, it may have just dropped off the most recent.
Yeah, we don't know what happened, but Chelsea's putting it up as we speak.
Yeah, that's fine. I did see there was something in here for, maybe we're gonna talk about this then. Are you smarter than an algorithm? That sounds to me like a little bit of a, I don't know if that's a machine learning conference or not, but coming up in July. Or
That
no,
is
coming up.
Are you smarter than an algorithm?
Yeah.
That is a webinar on Wednesday. This coming Wednesday,
Okay.
I'm sorry, this coming Wednesday as in tomorrow.
Right.
Presented by Andy Prince. This was a paper he was going to present at our workshop in May, but obviously, like all workshops, we didn't do it. So it's free for anyone to come and watch. So for those of you who want to come and see it, sign on up.
Fantastic. I know also on here you do have some archives. So I going back to the 2019, the Tampa workshop, there was some briefs on machine learning and particularly on web scraping in there too. I meant to try to pull up the name of that. I think it was Kara from Price had done a couple of good ones on that, and I recommend checking those out as well. But sorry, back to the brief. Easily distracted here.
I am Tom Doward.
Nice. We have some great videos for you guys to watch too, if you like.
Really, it's like a shameless plug. It really was not a setup. We should do that more often, though.
No kidding.
All right, so some of the cost sources that I did come up with that I recommend. There are a lot of times we complain about not enough data, but I found that there's really a lot of data out there. It's just a matter of processing it and normalizing it and doing all that. So that's one of the reasons I'm so attracted to machine learning, because I've been trying to do things in like pivot tables forever, and even that is not I'm not very proficient with that, and it's not very efficient in terms of memory. If you've ever tried to work with a big pivot table, it's just unwieldy. I know that they have been improving that capability in Excel, but first example, something I go to a lot is the OMB IT dashboard. I've got the website for it there, but it's got well over 7,000 IT programs from across DoD as well as civilian agencies in there. And I've gone in there and pulled everything from smart card programs to looking at some cyber factors in there now, and even help desk costs, a lot of cloud stuff in there. So, but it's not very standardized, so it really is something that takes a lot of effort to pull out and normalize data. And a lot of it I've done in Excel. So, but I recommend as one data set, people go in there because you can download everything right into Excel or a CSV format. I believe also JSON or XML. So it's pretty friendly in terms of being able to access a whole bunch of data. They've even got a bunch of, if you've done any TBM, they've got a couple of things that are, by the IT cost towers reports that are new in there that sort according to those. And another colleague of mine is working on pulling that data. The EIS public pricing tool is an interesting one too. If you've ever worked with the old networks on GSA, you can look in and pull up everything from some cloud costs to telecom equipment to some security things like the DHS intrusion prevention security service. There's some contact center help desk kind of costs in here. You can pull it up into like a wizard format and then export it to Excel. And it's pretty neat. And I've worked with that. Again, I'd like to be able to pull it all at one time and massage it. I've pasted some of it into Excel painfully by hand. But yeah, I recommend that as well. I got one or two more here I'll go over, and then we can open up again for some dialogue. But GSA IT70 is great if you've ever been up there for labor rates or several other sources. The problem is a lot of it's just PDF links to different companies with their rates. I have pulled some of those into Excel. Probably many of you have done the same thing where you've copied a table in Word or in a PDF and then put it into Excel and put the rates in. But one of the, there's a bunch of data there, and if we could apply machine learning to this and somehow pull in rates or prices, I think that would be another great data set to work with. And of course, again, GSA, there's a GSA Advantage, kind of an online catalog where you can go in and look for computer prices, just like on Amazon, and pull down a bunch of stuff. But you can even see here, imagine just doing like selecting the monitors and then pasting them into Excel and having to move them around and pull the prices and everything. So definitely would love to be able to do that a much more efficient way. Yeah, so I guess there is one more here, USASpendinggov, another one that carries a lot of contracting data and a couple of screen prints there, a little bit small, but you can pull in all kinds of data. It's easily downloadable. They've got contract amounts, done ID numbers, I think, what is it called, the PSCs or NAICS codes for the different types of work. And then down below, you can pull all kinds of all years of data all the way up to the current or all of it, and then awardee and location of work and a short description of the work. And so again, there's a lot of data out there, but the trick is getting it and putting it in a usable format. So I think I'll go ahead and transfer back to you, Karen, or we can kind of just continue to discuss any other thoughts in regards to these sources or any other web scraping suggestions or tools.
Right, so at this point, I would open it up to questions if there are any that have come in chat, or if you're thinking of a question, you can submit it now. Because like Dan was saying, really the part of this part of the meeting is like a dialogue. We do want to hear from you guys. We want to know what you might be interested in working on. If you want to try to kind of structure this challenge a little bit, or if you're interested in just, oh, if I have time, I'll go and take a look at it and see what I can do on my own. So there are a lot of different ways that we can run this. And we just want to hear from you what your thoughts are.
We have not gotten any more questions in just yet. But let's give folks another minute or so if anybody has anyone.
And honestly, I think a lot of people maybe you are just kind of dialing in here to learn about doing this, as I kind of am. But I think this last month in particular, as we're going back and forth, the main thought that kept coming up was this is a kind of a working group you know, literally where we're going to get together and just sort of maybe each of these meetings is a mini hackathon where we kind of think through things and members offer suggestions, as opposed to, you know, me, Karen, or Christian Smart saying, you know, these are some sources. I think some of that is going to be what this is, right? People who have done it before sharing their information, but in particular for me and maybe one or two others, I'm here to learn and hear from this group more than I am to necessarily give information.
Right, and if you wanted to go back to, I think it was slide 9, that's the one that discusses, kind of like the steps that would be involved in actually doing a machine learning problem, you know, if we propose something specific for the community, whereas the first step is what we're talking about right now, is like collecting the data. And as you know, just from, so I'm assuming that most of you on the call are interested or have experience in cost analysis or cost modeling and estimating, things like that. So if you do, then you know that the biggest part of your project, whatever it is always collecting the data and formatting it. And so those are the first 2 steps that we've got here. So it doesn't matter if it's a machine learning project, an advanced analytic project, or, hey, I'm just doing a basic estimate, and I've got basic in air quotes. You know, it's like trying to find the right data and getting it into the right format. And so one of the things that Dan referred to, and I know last time when we were talking about some of the tools, this was also brought up, that we don't necessarily know where to go for good cost data, because lots of times cost data isn't available, you know, on the web or, you know, publicly available. If you're lucky, you may have some cost data in your company, but the idea is, hey, if you learn how to do this web scraping, or if you learn ways to automate your data collection and, you know, your data formatting and structuring of it, then you can apply that to whatever kind of data set that you have, whether it's a data set that you have from work, or whether it's some, you know, public data set that you find out there that you've never looked at before.
We did get a question in. Sam Cohen, I hope you're ready to be unmuted, because it's about to happen. All right. There you go.
Hi, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Yeah. So I guess I was just asking for a little more clarity on the challenge, in the sense that are we just trying to scrape a Wikipedia page? I think like there had said with weapons data, and essentially get that into a usable format, and is that the challenge? And it can kind of be any page we want, or should we be looking for specific cost data on the sites that you had mentioned, Dan? And then
Yeah, keep going, sorry.
From that, I was just wondering if the challenge came with a prize, or if there was a winners or losers, or, I mean, that's not the way to put it, but if
Hey,
yeah,
we're all winners here, right?
exactly, everyone's winners.
Good. No, great question. And actually, admittedly, it's a little bit vague, because when we came up with the idea, you know, through our dialogue, we kind of like, you know what, this is something we wanted to get people to do more. And one thought I had was, I don't know, maybe we come up with if you have a team or a couple of people you want to work with, I think that's great. Or maybe we can suggest some teams. So I think the steering committee probably needs to meet again and discuss that a little bit. But I would say, if you have a source you'd like to look at, or think there's something that will help a project, I would say start with that. But if you want to just do it to learn how to do it, you could go to Wikipedia, or even I thought of, like, you know, IMDb, the Internet Movie Database, right, where you might get something about a movie that also would have a table in it that have, you know, theater revenue, box sales, something like that. So maybe you're trying to pull in a couple of different formats. In terms of prices, that's a very good idea. I think I will commit right now personally to a $10 Starbucks voucher and figure out how to pay for that later. But I think that's an excellent idea to have a good incentive. So I don't know how we're going to come up with the best one, but we'll figure that out later. Again, we're a working group, but that's a great suggestion. Yeah, $10 to
I
the
can
winner.
also give out a prize of pride. We can post your name up there as a, as a
yeah,
big contributor.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
We'll go Great British Bake Off style on this one.
Okay. Maybe we can get a like an ICEAA branded mask or something for people to wear.
Cool.
For our next face-to-face gathering.
Right.
So Dan did mention that, this is just an idea that we came up with, and we haven't actually spent a lot of time planning it or thinking it through. And so just hearing your question, Sam, made me think that, so maybe the first step is people just start becoming familiar with web scraping and learning some of this, if that's something you're interested in. Then the next time we meet, or maybe even before then, we can work this out through cost facts, rather than having a meeting. But then maybe we figure out, okay, here is a particular data set that somebody scraped and came up with, and it looks like a good data set to explore. And so then we can start formulating a more specific challenge. This is what we want you to figure out from this data set. And these are some of the algorithms that you may want to learn and consider, or some of the tools to use. Where right now, like Dan said, it is pretty vague. We're just saying, hey, here's some information on figuring out how to, scrape a web page. Okay, well, what specifically is a challenge? So as we get more information, as we get data, then we can start refining what this challenge would be.
Arlene Mikevich, you've got your hand up. Do you have a comment?
Megan?
There you are.
All right, yeah, my headset works, but it only works one way. I just ordered a new one. I just wanted to mention Kaggle. Is anybody familiar with Kaggle? www.kaggle.com. You can join for free, and they have thousands of data sets, and they do machine learning contests all the time. So people who are interested in delving into this, that's a great place to go.
Fantastic. K-A-D-D-L-E, right?
No, Kaggle.com.
Okay.
And it's free. You can sign up. And they have a ton of data sets of all kinds of interesting stuff. They probably have a lot of COVID data sets right now because that's the thing. But they have a lot of interesting, yes, there you go.
Awesome.
It's just a great place if you want to learn, play with data and do some machine learning. And, they have competitions that people can team up with other people that are maybe better at this than them to learn.
Yeah.
That's all
fantastic.
I had.
Cool.
Thank you. That's great. I'm going to add these to this source. And I know that we're recording this meeting. A lot of people were interested and couldn't make it. So, we'll kind of add this to our growing body of knowledge on this. That's part of the goal too, is just kind of improve our list of our knowledge of resources. Oh, Karen, real quick, you mentioned projects or people sharing. Are we still looking to get people to do the fire hose sharing, where they can share a project or talk about their application of machine learning?
Yes, if people are interested in that. So for those of you who were on, I believe it was our second meeting that we had, which would have been, when was that? At the end of last year, I think. We did this thing called speed fire hose sharing. And the idea is it's like speed sharing. And it's like a fire hose because you're getting hit with all of this information at once. But basically, we wanted people to just let other people know, okay, yeah, I've done X, Y, and Z related to machine learning or advanced analytics, and I worked on this type of problem and use that type of algorithm or that tool. And just so that people start to come up with points of contacts. So for instance, you see there are 4 people who have previously shared, and I don't think we were actually able to record that one, but if you were there, taking notes, you may have heard, okay, Connor, oh, he's done something with X, Y, and Z. You know what, I want to learn more about that, so I'm going to give him a call or shoot him an email. Brian's done something with, another tool set, another tool or another algorithm. Oh yeah, I'm interested in that, so I'm going to talk to him. So that's the idea. It's not necessarily we're giving you details of all the projects that we've worked on, but just a little bit about who we are, what we've done, and then if you're interested in learning more, contact us, or you can suggest to the steering committee, I really want to hear what Adam James did for the project that he described, and then we could have him give a presentation. So things like that. We do have a template, which I believe is the next slide, to make it easier for people to keep it to 1 to 2 minutes and to provide the right kind of information. And we also do have, I know the slides of the 4 people who did present are available on the ICEAA website somewhere. So if you're interested in seeing what people wrote down before, you can take a look at those. And so if you feel like you want to get your name out there and let people know what you've worked on, let us know, and we'll schedule a time to do some more of this speed sharing.
Those presentations, Karen, are on ICEAonline.com/ML group, machine learning group, which also, as you guys saw before, has a purple logo button on our rotating images up top. So you can get to that real easy.
Okay. And the best way to let us know if you're interested in sharing is to, you could either contact anyone in the steering committee directly. You could go through the ICEAA office and say, hey, can you forward this on to the steering committee? Or you could send an email through the cost fax and let us know that you are interested in sharing.
And I'm showing that now. This is the cost fax site. We also do have the presentations posted up here, but you get, it's kind of a group layout format there, and you get automatic email notifications, which is nice, and you can see if somebody posts something. So we will post the latest presentation there as well. And then briefly, I was just going to show you, and anybody jump in if you have a question. I'm just kind of using up our time here, but this was the IT dashboard. I just wanted to show you real quick so you can go to data feeds, CSV, XML, or JSON, and pull in this data here into Excel. You go here, you pick your data source. Even though it says lifecycle costs, that's actually not the most detailed one that I've seen. Activities is more detailed. You pick that, you pick you can get a subset of agencies. I usually do all of them, and I do it in a CSV format because that works well with Excel. You hit download, and then you get a huge Excel file that looks sort of like that scene from The Matrix when they're looking at the green screen. It's just a bunch of numbers and words, and but we want to be able to massage that, and there's a lot of rich data in there. So USASpendinggov is the other one. You can go in here and download spending export, download center, pull in, look up data on a specific agency, a specific commodity, even just a word search. You can search on the word cloud and that kind of thing.
So then, Dan, what you're describing is a little bit different from my idea of what web scraping is. It sounds like these 2 websites that you just showed already have the data prepared for us to just download quickly, whereas my concept of web scraping is I go to a website that might have a bunch of, like earlier you said, hey, there's a bunch of computer equipment out here with little pictures and information on all of them and how much they cost, and I want to capture all of that, but I don't want to have to do it manually, so that then I could write a code, some type of R or Python code that would go to that web page and pull all of that information for me and put it into, say, a CSV or an Excel format. Is that, would you say that's an accurate representation of the 2 different types of what we're showing here?
Yeah, that's a great point, Karen. Yeah, and that you're right. This is like just going in and downloading it by hand, whereas with machine learning, you know, you're going to something or you're setting it up so that it will automatically pull in maybe your updated prices, or maybe another. I think of you know, the GSA per diem lookup calculator or something like that, where you could go online and pull the wizard, but if you could set up a way to automatically do that, or pull maybe fuel prices or something that changes daily, right? That's the kind of thing where machine learning is really the most helpful, because it's more, it can be done on a script. You know, think of a macro basically is how it is in my brain, at least. It'll automatically do that, pull in the data, and then do some reformatting and restructuring of it.
So, and then continuing the thought of that this is like a work in progress. It's still a little bit vague. We're trying to figure out what we would do next. If folks are interested, if anyone does start working on a web scraping, you know, some code and actually going out to some websites, if you are successful, or even if you're not successful, if you want to share your experiences with the rest of the group here, you know, okay, I downloaded Python, and these are the routines that I was using, and this is the website I went to, and this is, you know, these are the problems, or these are the results that I got. That could also be a topic for a future conversation, say at our next meeting. So keep that in mind. And again, you know, just let us know what you're interested in.
Yeah, great point, Karen. I actually was doing this with GitHub yesterday, literally, and I got about 2/3 of the way through the initial setup of some data sets. You can see I did the first one and did it wrong, and this was the OMB dashboard data that I downloaded from Excel. I was just trying to experiment with that as sort of a practice data set, and yeah, it's very much, you know, a trial and error process for me. So, but just get out there and start doing it, get your hands dirty, I guess.
Well, that sounds like a good, get out there, get your hands dirty, folks. It's, that's you know, words to live by. There's nothing fun happens for people with clean hands.
Right, right.
Hence the picture
Other
of
than
the,
washing regularly, of course.
Oh, yes, of
Yes.
course. Wash your hands regularly, yes.
I was going to say, hence the picture of, I think it's on slide 9 of the dirty hands.
Mm-hmm.
Get your hands dirty.
Right on.
So thanks, Dan. Thanks, Karen. You guys gave everybody a lot to chew on. There's even more to digest elsewhere out there on the internets. Be sure to join up with Cost Facts, and if you need to get a hold of any of our steering committee members, you can of course contact ICEAA. And until September, once we'll get that word out on that meeting as soon as we got that scheduled. And I think that's day. What do you say, Karen?
Right, yeah, we don't necessarily have the date set for the next meeting, but the steering committee will be meeting. We are now meeting monthly to plan it, so we will definitely have something out there in September. Well, I say definitely, you know, assuming that there's not another disaster like COVID that takes up all of our time and attention, which is still going on. We heard today that we may, in LA area, we may be headed for another shutdown. So, but that's a whole other topic. Yeah, so the plan, like I said, is to have meetings every 2 months. So the next one would be in September. However, for folks who are starting to work on this challenge or just have questions, you know, feel free to contact us, or, you know, go through the cost facts and open up some questions and discussion threads. And I think that's all that I have.
Dan, do you have any final thoughts?
Just that I'm getting hungry because I'm at Panera and you keep talking about things to chew on and that kind of thing, but I'm good.
I don't think that was, I think it was subliminal on my part as well, because I could go for some lunch. So, so all right, then in that case, all you machine learners and robots and androids and other cyborgs, have a fantastic afternoon. Stay safe, stay sane, be good, and take care.
Okay, thanks, Megan.
Mhm.
And thanks everyone for joining.